Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It's May 24th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And it's all uphill again today. We started out with what we have here is what you call a spike in channel. Notice how its price is spiked up, and then we go into this channel. And there's actually a secondary channel in here as well. I don't know if it really helps any or not, but you can see another little spiking channel up there. I mean, we kind of did that all day. We'd spike up and go into these channels, but eventually we got a break of the blue channel, a couple of legs up to a new high, and then we had a correction before we started higher again. But by that time, we'd actually folded over into this flatter yellow channel, and of course we get a break of it and a move to a new high, and then finally we sell off. There's actually another channel here. Let's just make this one green. That comes into play as well. And this is not uncommon on a strong trend day to see very mild corrections like this before you go into another channel of some kind. And sometimes you don't even get a break of any of these channels. You may get a break of this original two-tiered blue one, but you just go right into another one and you may not get a break of it. You may just continue on. And sometimes it may flatten out. Let's say we're going up and then it flattens a little bit and then it flattens a third time. That's not uncommon either, but these are strong trends and they just kind of continue up. Even though you might get a correction in here, you need to be real careful selling these. So just keep that in mind. Notice that after we did get the break of the two-tiered blue, we had a couple legs to a new high, and then we had probably the bigger correction that we had today. There's a couple of ways to look at this one. I originally drew it like this. I believe this to be correct, but you might have drawn it like so because it fits there as well. Um, so you might have even drawn it like that. I think either way you get to the same spot. Although if you draw it off those first few bars there, you do get a break and two legs to a new low. So, it doesn't really matter which one's correct other than the fact that the trend started back up and you want to start buying again. So that's about the most you can say about that. But let's back out here. We'll talk about the trades. And again, there's not a lot of setups today. You just don't get a lot of setups. Once you start, notice how again you got all these little bars, like lots of dojis. So every time you come back to the trend line, if you get a decent little setup bar, I mean, here's one, maybe here or here. You just about have to take them. That's all you're going to get, really. It's just you don't get a lot of second entries. I mean, there's a few in here, and the ones that do set up are pretty good trades, but just recognize that on a strong trend like this, you may not get a lot of setup opportunities. So anyway, you can clearly see we spiked up when we went into this channel, and notice how we're kind of staying in the upper half. That's your midline right up through there. And we were pretty much kind of staying above that. There's actually another little spike in channel on this yellow channel here too. But 7 o'clock came right in here as we're turning back, turning up. I believe it came right along in here on about this second bar. So you really don't get a chance to enter this one. But you come up here and you make a low. You test it once, you test it twice. You get a nice little small bar that bounces right off the EMA. And it really looks like two legs back there as well. This made a little higher high, but there's still two legs back. But the main reason I like this is just the triple test of the support area. The nice signal bar, plenty of room back to your top, or your highs or whatever. And this one takes off. Then it pulls back. You get a first entry, turns back down again. And when it breaks higher there, you got a second entry long. Technically, it broke lower here and turned back up. You could look at that. Okay, sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off. Had a little interruption there, but um, notice it breaks lower, turns up, and then comes back down again. So you could actually look at that as a failed second entry short as well as a second entry long. So a couple of different ways to look at that one. Again, you got a first entry short and then a second entry short before it turns higher again. So I like going long there just basically because it's a second entry, and you can clearly see prices working off that trend line working up there, plus the EMA. Great place to go long. There's actually another second entry here. Notice you make a swing high, it's higher than that when you go first entry, second entry. Again, it's right off the key entry point, but there's right into resistance of the overnight. That's the highs of the day. Again, if you want to trade this, and that's an inside bar too, so that's another thing about it, but there's clearly a correction there coming back to the trend line, so you may take it. But if you just wait in a few minutes, you get another first entry and then second entry. Notice the new swing high, it's higher than that one, so you're moving down. First entry, pulls back, and when it breaks higher right above this bar, that's a second entry long, and off it goes again. And it comes back. First entry, there's actually a second entry long right there, but that's too congestive. I just think that's too dangerous. But notice it comes back right here, makes this low, it goes higher, pulls back again. So you got a first entry, goes higher, pulls back again, and you got a second entry or a triple test basically is what you're looking at here of that support area. Again, a nice signal bar. I like going long there again. We just came off the lows, so you expect prices to try to go all the way back to the highs here. Actually, on this blue one, we haven't got back to the highs all day, but you can see the trend steadily going higher. So I like that long. And you come back first entry, second entry, and you got another second entry long. The only reason I marked this one green is it is a little congestive. It is an inside bar. And we're just kind of in no man's land here. We didn't come off the high yet. We're not back to the EMA. We're not back to the trend line. It's just kind of, but this has been a strong trend. We also have this little micro channel coming down. You got a break, but you tried to go lower twice there. So you may take that trade. It runs on up, and then you get a first entry, and there's a second entry right off the key entry point. Signal bar is no good, and you see what happens. It fails. You get your first break, and notice you're moving up. You get a first entry short. You make a second leg up, and you get a second entry short. That's a failure. You do have a break and a couple legs up to a new high now, so you got to think about that. But with that being a failure in this strong trend, and if you saw the yellow channel, there's a good chance we may run up. There's actually, on this move back higher here, notice you've got that little channel. Let's just make it a different color here. We'll make it green. And that's your break at a new high, and then it turns down. So there's a good chance we may still go higher there. It's a failed second entry short. With the trend right off the EMA, right off the midline. A lot of reasons to consider still going long there. But then we run down, first entry. There's a second entry here. Again, the signal bar doesn't qualify, and you just kind of work lower, and it comes back and turns down. That's a failure when it broke lower right there. I marked it. It's a little dangerous going short here, but we did get a break and a few legs up to a new high, and even this short-term move to the new high played out. And you've got this running down, and you could have even looked at it like I showed you before, like so. So that could still be in play. I just think it's a little dangerous short in this, but it is a failed second entry long. It is a quick, easy move. I liked it, to be honest with you, although there's reasons to be leery of it at the same time. So it's just dangerous short in a market like this. But that's definitely a nice failure that's probably just going to run. If nothing else, you're probably going to get a scalp, and you can see it's an easy scalp, and then it runs back higher again. So you may take that trade. And then we get this repeat pattern again. Notice we move up, and you try to go short once, you try to go short twice, you try to go short a third time. So there's a double test of that support level. Nice signal bar. We're closing above the EMA, and you would expect prices, even if you get a break here, to try to make a new high on this yellow channel. And so off it goes. And this is a repeat pattern. We've seen it several times here. You see it here, you see it here, you see it here. So it's one of those repeat patterns that you see multiple times during the day. You actually see it again here, although this one looks a little more congestive. And I just didn't feel like it was probably worth risking it on this one. But you can see it right there again. We made the low, we test it once, we test it twice, and then you get a good signal bar. So, I mean, because it's a repeat pattern, you may take it in a strong trend. It is off that key entry point there. It's off the midline. It's off the support line. A lot of reasons to like that. Just to push on up to make a new high, and off it goes. And then you actually get the same thing here again. You make the low, first entry, second entry. Although, and you would think we'd push to a new high. I don't recommend going long right here because there's a little double top right there. Plus, this is after 2 o'clock. If this was earlier in the day, maybe you let it break higher and drop a limit order in and whatever, it would have worked. But being after 2 o'clock, I don't even think you want to mess with it. So, and you could look at it as a high or low too. A couple of different things there. So anyway, not a lot of trades today, but very straightforward. Several double tests, a couple of second entry longs. Nothing too out of the ordinary, too difficult. Just not a lot of setups today, but the ones that there were, they were pretty good setups. So anyway, hopefully you had a good trading day today. You know, I like these strong rally days because, again, really, every time you get a pull back to the main trend line, it's some type of correction, and you get a bullish bar, you just about can go long on it, and you can't hardly go wrong. You know, here's a little pullback with a bullish bar, it goes higher. Here's another one, goes higher. Of course, this one gives you your first break, but it still goes higher. And, you know, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one again. We already talked about that one. There's one right here. So, I mean, you can see it all day long here. And every time it pulls, you get a little correction back. It tends to go higher, and it's good for at least a scalp, if not a lot more. So just keep that in mind on these. But you got to recognize this. And the key to it is notice all these little bars that just keep working higher and very shallow corrections. But notice how there's lots of doji stems on both sides, lots of little bars, and the corrections are very, very shallow. But it just keeps going higher and higher and higher. And that's a strong trend, and you'll see them to the downside, as I've told you before. So, but anyway, there's not much else you can really say about today. Pretty straightforward. So, hope you had a good trading day. I'm going to wrap it up, make it short and sweet today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next